We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Alex told you the government announced recently that the recession is over. It ended on June of 2009. The millions of Americans unable to find work might not agree. Perhaps the recession ended for the bankers and government employees, but for the rest of us, things seem to be getting worse. Gold and silver haven't heard the news either. They've begun their long-expected journey to the moon. In addition to converting your shrinking dollars into gold and silver, you should consider a food savings account from eFoods Direct. They both make fabulous investments. Food is our greatest dependency, and we know it will be more precious than any financial resource. You and your family need food to survive a crisis, and you can't eat paper, stocks, or metals. Alex has been urging you to invest in delicious, easy-fix meals to enjoy now or save for long-term. This will freeze the cost of your food while you can still afford it. Visit efoodsdirect.com on the internet or call 800-409-5633. That's efoodsdirect.com or 800-409-5633.
Hundreds of nations have fallen to tyranny in the last century alone. This is our last chance to not relive history.
As we're finishing off this agenda, they'll be pulling the rug from underneath Americans at home.
They have tremendous influence on our president and Congress, and they really are calling the shots.
I think it's incumbent upon all of us as American citizens to pay attention.
Fall of the Republic identifies the enemies of our nation, the criminal offshore cartel, hell-bent on destroying sovereignty, and on its ashes constructing world government.
Tim Geithner, Bernanke, they're arsonists. They're asking for more matches. And the Congress is saying, who do we make the check out to?
Today, seems like nobody does care. And right now in Washington, D.C., we have seen a fall of the Republic.
Get your copy of Fall of the Republic on DVD at Infowars.com or watch it online right now in super high quality at PrisonPlanet.tv. Hello, friends. This is Alex Jones. You've heard me talk about Cal-Ben 5-star soaps for years. This is an American-made product of the highest quality and compares to nothing you will find in stores. You can buy factory direct, shipped via UPS right to your door. Check them out on the web at 5starsoap.com. or call 800-340-7091. Take my word for it. Once you've used Pure Soap, you won't buy anything else. Since 1947, Cal-Ben Soap Company has been showing consumers that soap can be tough on dirt and gentle on the environment. Buy American and stay clean, as well as support InfoWars. Visit 5starsoap.com today or call 1-800-340-7091. Well, Marty, what do you have to say?
As founder and owner for over 63 years, satisfaction is guaranteed or double your dirt back. Call us at 1-800-340-7091 for a free catalog or visit our website, 5starsoap.com. Thank you.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space. And when you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough.
I knew too much.
I just knew too much.
Does that make me crazy?
Does that make me crazy?
Does it make us crazy?
Does that make me crazy?
Because we accurately predict the future? Because we understand the geopolitical factors and leaders? Because we study their own battle plans that are public? This is a big world. They have to publicly coordinate their operations. They always have a cover story, but right behind it, they have their admitted goal. And for the New World Order, world government is only the beginning. Bless your soul. Do you really think you're in control? That's what I'd say to the New World Order crowd out there. All right, let me do it. Let me break down the China situation as calmly as I can. China, of course, was the ally of the United States in World War II. The United States was already promoting socialism towards communism in the United States. Deals were made with China. Chiang Kai-shek was given faulty armaments The right wing in America said that it was all staged. Decades later, it was declassified. That Mao Zedong was put into power by our government. But in the name of fighting the red Chinese threat and the Russian threat, a police state apparatus was built, witch hunts were expanded, attacks on free speech, federal control from behind the scenes under the guise of national security of Hollywood. All of that got cemented into place. Now, it's not that our owners, the robber barons, are really communist. As Carroll Quigley, the Georgetown political science head, Bill Clinton's main mentor, wrote, he was given access to the globalist, what he called the British Roundtable Committee documents for several years, to write a 1,000-page tome for the planetary controllers so that they would have a couple thousand copies to give to high-level State Department, CIA, and others. He published it on a limited run, and it was a private publishing that was done, and it was only several thousand copies printed and given to high-level gophers in government so they could understand how things really work and operate. The plates, of course, were surreptitiously smuggled, and it was reprinted brazenly by patriots in the 1970s. And I loaned it to a newspaper reporter about 2 years ago, and he never gave it back. In fact, I want Aaron Dykes, if you have to, go over to that guy's house. I know he lives here in Austin. I want my 10 books or so we loaned him back. Side issue, let's just order another one online. I think they're like $50, though. It's a big hardcover. The one I have is actually an original. But original reprinting from the 70s. It's thousands of dollars for one of the original. I think it's $2,000. But see, that's the problem with history. I say I'm going to give you detail. I'm going to break this down. This is all facts. This is all massive knowledge proving everything I'm saying. So I don't want to just make statements here about what China's doing and where we're going in the future. The point is, Quigley said, we use communism, we use fascism, we use socialism, anything that collectivizes the general public to get control of them. And then we'll use a fascist leader, a dictator, a communist leader, socialism. We don't care. We want power centralized in very few hands so we can move towards this global corporate state where there will be no freedom. And he went on to say, I believe humans want to live in tyranny. This is our natural state. This is a good thing. He also published publicly the Anglo-American establishment and bragged about that, kind of a public book, but watered down a bit. And that's only, I think, 300 pages long. I read that when I was about 15 years old, but I haven't read it since. In fact, that was the first book of Carroll Quigley I read. But the plan was always to build up China to menace Russia, while the United States was used to fund Russia and give it armaments and secrets, and Ford and GM and all of them, huge factories building army trucks, and U.S. engineers helping build the Russians' nuclear reactors, giving them the A-bombs and then killing the Rosenbergs as patsies. Because, again, if you look at this as Russians or Chinese or Americans, you're blind. This is the global banking cartel who funded both sides in World War I, who funded all the sides in World War II, who going back more than 300 years in Europe in those endless wars was constantly funding all the different armies, all the different sides. And they don't care. They always got paid. And governments would crack down on the public. The public would tend to roll over and let them take their land and let them tax them into poverty. If, after all, it was a war, if, after all, their firstborn son didn't come back from the front, you bet they were willing to starve to death and have their other younger kids with their ribs sticking out because Junior got killed fighting Napoleon or vice versa. Meanwhile, Napoleon was publicly being funded by the Rothschilds and other major banking houses, and so were the Brits. There was the Rothschild family in France funding Napoleon on record. And when Napoleon took over the first time, they got more land than his new royal house he set up got. That's why almost all the good vineyards in France now are Rothschild. I mean, just like the big banks now of the 600-plus islands off Greece worth billions apiece, private bankers are getting their own individual islands. That's how Greece is paying them. And the bankers sold Greece the derivatives and made the profit, and now we're saying, oh, you can't pay this other stuff back. Here, give me your islands. I mean, this is carpetbagging on a scale that makes the mind spin. You know what carpetbagging was? The South was completely wasted, burned, destroyed by Sherman, and there's just starving people all over the place, and here comes people with money with their big carpet bags buying everything up for pennies on the dollar. That's what carpetbagging is. The globalists are wreckers. You go back to every culture, and at key straits around the world, they would build fires in foggy bad weather to confuse ships and think that they were lighthouses to bring them into port, to wreck them on shoals so that they could then, under laws that all those countries, England, France, Aboriginal systems had the same laws that, well, if a ship's wrecked, it's not stealing, it's fair game, whoever can salvage it. And if a ship runs into rocks, quarter mile out to sea, it's freezing cold, almost everybody's going to die. And then you go out when the fog clears and get all the goods out of the wrecked ship. That's what corporate raiding is. They go in, take control of a company. They're never going to pay the stockholders. They just sell everything off and then bankrupt it and keep the profit for themselves. That's what the New World Order is. And then you're homeless, so you can't stand up to them. They don't just not care if you become homeless or if you lose your job or you lose your farm or your self-sufficiency. They don't want you to have it. And a lot of folks are saying, where does China come into this? Oh, it's going to come into it. So it is on record that our government set China up from the beginning. And 100 years before that, China was divided into 12 parts, and the U.S. had its own sector. China's already been run by the West for hundreds and hundreds of years. How'd they do it? Drug trade. The Chinese made heroin illegal, opium illegal. And they just came right in, and they bought off all the police and the military and the population because the Chinese made it illegal. It made there be huge profits, and that's how British and U.S. intel, the Germans got their piece, the French got their piece. The French ran Vietnam because they had to get that opium out of there and out of Laos and out of Cambodia and sell it up to the Chinese. And that was a way to control them. I mean, you think all these Prozac ads, all these beer ads, all these drug ads are an accident? They figured all this out a long time ago. So, China's been New World Order run for several hundred years. The Japanese got too big for their britches. Thug governments all act the same. Doesn't matter if it's our government, Ahmadinejad, doesn't matter if it's the Japanese. You know, avarice-filled, dominating men of power who are ruthless and who enjoy war and destruction and control, they rise to the top, as all philosophers have noted throughout history, because good men lay down to them. Good men are more intelligent, stronger, better, everything. But we have a blind spot. We can't believe it's happening to us. We can't believe other people are like that. We want to buy into the fake little narratives of the people, you know, singing the Star-Spangled Banner while the flag still waves at a football game and all the guys crying, they're there with their son. Meanwhile, what America was and what that flag symbolizes and all the blood that went into it, a great idea, the most noble in our history, has been destroyed. But you don't care. You just want the symbol. You want the symbol above the substance. If I could have the liberty back and if the people could awaken from their slumber and their trance, I would rather have freedom in this country than that flag. The only reason the flag has any positive meaning is because it symbolized the spirit of 1776, which the system has tried to defile and pull down and demonize because it wasn't perfect, but it's the best that's ever been. Now, this China situation, China has been set up, China has been deployed, China has been built up with tariffs and taxes and regulations and carbon taxes, and all the